Alright guys and gals, it's been a long time coming. We're talking tarps today. We got the 11-foot Hammock Gear Quest Tarp up in the Turtle Dog stand. I don't actually have trees in my yard that are wide enough to string my hammock and my tarp up, so I had to build a stand for it. So just pretend we're hanging from trees today, because I promise you it does work. But like I said, today we're talking my 11-foot Hammock Gear Quest. We got the Hammock Gear Quest Tarp up in the stand today. Welcome to Matty Outdoors. I am Matty. If this is your first time here, we talk a ton of hiking and backpacking stuff here. Obviously we talk hammock camping. I'm Canadian. I hike a ton of the Canadian Rockies. So if that sounds cool to you at all, click on that subscribe button. You are going to enjoy it. You're going to love it. It's probably going to be your favorite channel ever. Let's get this thing going. Okay, so to start off, the way that I've got my tarp rigged up is I run a continuous ridge line on my tarp, and then this here is just a mesh sleeve. It's essentially just a sleeve of bug netting, basically, that slides over my entire tarp. So for deployment and stuff, obviously, you'll see when my tarp is actually out and deployed, this makes it a lot easier to manage. So that's the system I've got going on here. So how that works, I will show you. All right, you're gonna have to pretend that we're not on the stand here, but what I've got right here is it's a continuous line, and it goes onto this little titanium hook, and this will wrap around my tree. I know a carabiner here, but let's just pretend that this is a tree that this wraps around, and this just becomes a fixed end, and that end runs all the way down to the other side. So down there, this is the cordage that continues all the way up to this guy. So what it does is it runs around this tree, and with this kind of cool little titanium contraption called a wasp, this is essentially just a really cool gimmicky line tensioner, basically. So it wraps around the tree, and you use this to create your mechanical advantage, and it locks off. So this line is taut, and then I've got a couple Prusik knots here on some I believe this is lashet soft shackles that hook onto my tarp on either side. You can see here, same thing on this side, that soft shackle. The advantage of the Prusik knots here is what this does is I can get my line up around the tree, and then I can slide wherever I want that tarp to go. By sliding these Prusiks along the way, you can slide the tarp up and down the line to center it over your hammock and center it over whatever spot you want to keep dry. So that's the advantage of going with the continuous ridge line, as opposed to having just two lines coming off of either end and tying off that way. I much prefer this way. I don't know, call me lazy, whatever, but this is the way I prefer to do it. You got your tarp strung up between your trees. Now this is the coolest part, and this is my favorite part about this snakeskin. Watch this. Absolutely love that. So yeah, basically just open it up, get your tarp all out and deployed. Take you in close and I'll show you what I use for guy lines and tieouts on my tarp. So you've got this little about 3-inch loop of shock cord, this little titanium line tensioner, and then the line here. Alright, I'll get this thing staked out and I'll show you how the line tensioners work. Alright, so I got 4 of these sides pegged out. I'll show you on the last side here how I peg this out. So what I do is I basically pull, and it'll put a little bit of tension on that shock cord, and I bring my stake down straight to the ground. That gives me my point that I'm going to put my marlin spike hitch. Got my line here. This is the point that I pinched. So what you do is you make a loop in the line so it crosses over top of itself, and I'm going to reach through the loop with my 2 fingers and go across and grab the other line and pull it back through. So you end up with this sort of shape here. This is probably really out of focus. Come on. There we go. We end up with this shape here, and I put my stake through, and that locks on my stake, and that is a marlin spike hitch. And then I take that guy to the ground, stake it down. Now to actually tension these lines, what you do is you come down to the little knot here that's tied at this titanium toggle piece, and you pull down on that cordage to get some tension. Make a little loop here, put it around the end of that toggle, and there you go. And what that does is, what I like for having this this piece of shock cord here with my tarp is, I don't know if you've seen the dogs running around here, but having the dogs around my tarp, kind of my big worry is them catching on the guy lines. So having this little bit of shock cord here just kind of gives me that ability to not have my tarp be under like super tension if the dogs run by and catch it, and hopefully not rip my tarp. That's my thought with that. So there it is. This is it. This is life under the tarp. I mean, obviously normally there would be a hammock hanging here, but just kind of gives you an idea what I deal with for space underneath here. It's 11 feet long, peak to peak, 4.5 feet on either side down to the ground. Pretty minimalistic. I have no tieouts on this thing, so like I said, I only have to carry 4 stakes, which is a huge advantage. Tons of weight savings. Like, I have this entire tarp set up, not with the stakes, just the tarp alone, with all the guy lines and the mesh sleeve and everything, down to a pound. So that's 16 ounces. I'm pretty happy with that. It is pretty minimalistic though. The coverage on either end for my hammock is not a ton. I'll string my hammock up and I'll show you what I get for coverage on the hammock when I got it up under the tarp. Alright, so what I end up with at either end is I end up with, from the end of my continuous loop here on the hammock to the end of the tarp, I end up with about 6.5 inches-ish. So it's not a ton of coverage. I do have to be pretty careful how I do pitch my tarp. I have been caught out in some pretty terrible weather, and setting up, taking the wind direction into account is a huge factor with a tarp setup like this. Just being this small and this minimalistic, you definitely got to be mindful of that. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I have had no issues whatsoever. As long as I pitch my tarp in the sense that the wind is going to catch me in the cross breeze, I'm generally pretty good to go. So yeah, so far I have had no issues with the minimal coverage with only having an 11-foot tarp going with an 11-foot hammock. If you've ever wondered how I get those awesome shots out of my hammock with the open view, this is generally how I do it. This honestly is probably my most common way of pitching my tarp. This is called Porch Mode. Essentially what you do is you utilize your trekking poles, and I wrap the shock cord portion of my guy line around the trekking pole, and then drive my guy line down to the ground and stake it out. Obviously a day like today where I've got some wind in my yard, this is really not very conducive for you know, setting up my tarp on a day like today. I would definitely have it pitched down with the wind coming across, but I just kind of wanted to put this up here just to kind of show you how I do that. So yeah, this is my tarp up in porch mode, and yeah, this is usually the most common way that I throw my tarp up. Not only does the snakeskin make deployment easy, it makes putting it away easy too. So I've got my tarp completely down. This is generally the last thing I take down when I'm leaving camp. It goes in the outside pocket of my pack, so I don't mind taking it down last. I can keep it up, kind of give myself a dry place to get everything else packed up. So I've got all my stakes undone. All you do, grab the snakeskin at the end, pull it over, whole tarp is ready to go. And taken down from the tree, that's what you get, all rolled up in the mesh stuff sack. I don't carry the actual stuff sack for it on the trail. I just carry it in the snakeskin, stuff in the outside pocket of my pack. Makes it super easy, super lightweight, super easy to manage. So yeah, that is my tarping setup, you guys. If you got any questions at all, let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to help you guys out. Yeah, as always, I am Matty. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one.